This part of North Essex really has been a revelation. With all the usual prejudices about the county, I didn't expect to see thatched cottages and rolling countryside. The other thing you can't help but notice is the sheer number of wind and water mills. They're all over the place. There's been a watermill on this site at Coggeshall since around 1130. Now, the building which now houses the wheel is practically modern. It's just 300 years old. The wheel itself does need some restoration work, so this place isn't open to the public at the moment. The watermill at Sybil Headingham is in a similar state. It's being restored by Essex County Council, who took it over in 1980 as part of a preservation campaign.
It really began in the 1950s. And it was an executive decision of the council that these machines were too important to disappear from the landscape, and they represent a lot of the culture and the heritage of Essex. So there was a decision made to preserve mills. After all, many children who come visit, they'd have no idea where a loaf of bread comes from. If you ask them where it comes from, they say, oh, from a supermarket.
Windmills are much more obvious in the landscape, aren't they? Because if you go past a watermill, it just looks like a house.
Don't say that word. That's dreadful to say things like that.
Why is it that every time I say the word house, you wince?
Well, this is a very personal view, but I think it's a crime to convert watermills into houses. Well, this particular mill stands on a site that was mentioned in the Domesday Book. It passed through various ownerships and it finally stopped work in 1956.
Which is late, isn't it?
Well, it is for a rural mill. It needs a lot of restoration. But we're very lucky in as much that most of the original machinery is intact.
So how long is it going to take you to restore this, do you reckon?
Well, that's the magic question. That's the magic question. Hopefully, within 3 or 4 years, we can have one set of millstones actually working again.
At the moment, they're fashioning a single piece of oak, which weighs a ton, to make the shaft or spindle for the wheel. Millwright Michael Hoyle's in charge. So, Michael, this is where that huge spindle will go?
Yes, that big oak shaft will go through the two halves of the water wheel and then through the pit wheel until it rests in bearings at each end, which will be fixed down onto the floor.
You make that sound quite easy. I'm assuming it won't be.
It won't be very easy at all. The shaft will be unloaded off a lorry in the yard. We shall get it through to the other end of the mill on rollers, and then we shall bring it back this way, suspend it from ropes or chains, and we shall gradually inch it through here, little by little, until it rests on its bearings.
Rather you than me. So what's the difference, then, between you and an old-fashioned millwright?
In theory, very little. We work in the same sort of way, we use the same materials, the same joints and techniques, but we cheat because we use electric power tools, we use hydraulic jacks, we use a block and tackle, that sort of thing.
So how many mills do you look after now?
We look after 7 mills. That's the remains of a steam mill, 2 water mills and 4 windmills, including Mount Nessing windmill, which is in working order.
Is that the most satisfying, when you can actually see those sails going round?
Yes, if you have the mill working, the stones turning, the corn going in and the meal coming out, you can smell the meal and you can feel it between your fingers, and it's brilliant.
And on a good day, it's a beautiful sight. The Mount Nessing mill dates back to the 1800s, when there were 285 mills in Essex, including this one, about 30 miles away in Finchingfield. This mill no longer works, though if Geoff has his way, that'll change. So, Geoff, tell me a bit about the history, then, of this mill.
Well, this particular mill was built around 1756 by a man called Joseph Butcher, who came from Thaxted. In fact, in this particular village, or the parish, there were 9 windmills at one time.
How did they support 9 windmills in such a small area?
They would have only supplied locally within perhaps 10 miles of the village.
So what went wrong? Why did this windmill and all the others fall into disuse?
Basically the Industrial Revolution. Along came steam. The wind is unpredictable, doesn't blow from 9 till 5, but steam you could work all day. So really the steam mill effectively killed the windmill.
But our fascination with mills continues. The mill at Thaxted has recently been restored. It was a going concern until 1905.
Well, my grandfather was the last working miller at this windmill. He came over from Cambridge as apprentice to his uncle, who was the miller here before him.
So how important is this windmill to the town, then?
It's a very big tourist attraction in Thaxted, And the 4 or 5 years that we haven't had the windmill, the church and the Guildhall, they haven't had the visitors, or not the number of visitors that you have when the windmill is open.
Honestly, it made that much difference?
Yes, yeah, that is, I think we are the newest attraction. We're only 200 years old, where the others are 600, you know, but as you're coming into Thatched on the various roads, you can always see the mill, and the days that we've got the sails turning, it is a very, very big draw.
So you've been involved in restoring this windmill. What kind of a task has that been over the years?
The last setback happened in 2000 when some bricks came loose at the top of the mill. They had to take the whole of the top off, and then a top 6 foot of brickwork had to be rebuilt, and then all the cap and everything had to go back on again. Although it was hard work, you know, very satisfying to know that we've got something which we can pass on to future generations.
You know, I'm sure there wouldn't be all the controversy over wind farms if the turbines could look like that.
You've probably got a point there, John. Well, if you want more information on the windmills or anything else you've seen on today's programme, then do have a look at our CFAX page, 616, or at the Countryfile website.
Well, next Sunday we're going to be at Poole Harbour in Dorset, and again we'll be at this slightly earlier time of 5 minutes to 11. So until then, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Also in next week's programme, Charlotte will be checking on fox hunting a year after the ban. And Farming Today on Radio 4 each morning this week will be investigating how farmers can get hold of subsidies now the payment system has changed.